decided to make this little graph chart thing because I actually think that it's getting quite significant now in the voting and elections. I mean, this is for Lewisham. I know this is not the general election, but I think in Northern Ireland the turnout was less than 50%. And I know that a lot of the turnouts now in other major elections are starting to go under 50%. This is one of the latest elections in Lewisham. I probably should do the same graph for Rochdale, actually. That'd be interesting. But this is the results from Lewisham in the mayoral election. And it wasn't just the Labour Party who won it. It was a Labour and Cooperative who won it. But I decided, I'm like, 20% is very, very low. It's a very, very low turnout. 20.74%. Not even 21% turnout. And I was thinking, well, this is like the entire public, the entire electorate. And, you know, I've been thinking, a lot of these charters that they did, the whole legal system is based on everyone voting for the sheriffs and the jury and the jurats. It was quite an important thing to go vote for the jury, because they had like a permanent position, kind of a little bit like councillors now. I think you have to kind of look at the jury almost like when you vote for the councillors now. It was something more like that back in the 1300s and all the way through the Middle Ages. And you actually nominated people. It wasn't, they didn't have like, I don't think they had candidates to start with. I think you could freely write down who you wanted to do it. So the councillors or jurats were actually the favourites of the public. So whoever, you know, like people thought should do the job. It wasn't like certain people, I will stand. It was like, no, we'll nominate you. So you always got people who the public really wanted, like the full, you know, everyone from the public, because that, you know, once you can write down who you want, then you don't get all these people saying, oh, you know, these politicians are all corrupt, or we don't like this or that party. You actually, they can nominate who they want, right? The current system is kind of been hijacked, really. Now, the thing is that the government are doing a lot of things at the moment that the public either don't back or are really opposed to. And we're starting to see this now when we're getting these massive petitions, like that North Wales 20 mile an hour petition, the Stonehenge one for Wiltshire, the Stop ULEZ petitions, and then you've got all these petitions that are trying to oppose the World Health Organization. You know, like all of Wales, out of all of the people in Wales who signed that 20 mile an hour petition, right? I think it was something like 40% signed it. And that is actually more people supporting something of an electorate, and this is for all of Wales, right, than the percentage of people who turned out to actually vote in this Lewisham election. And that is something that the Secretary of State for Transport and the Welsh First Minister, Keir Starmer, and probably Rishi Sunak need to take quite seriously. They are refusing, and this is like just people going and collecting signatures themselves, sharing it themselves, and not the government actually going out and setting up, you know, polling stations or a referendum and putting things for everyone's door so everyone can have a say and everyone's notified about it. This is people having to share it off their own back, right? Because the petition is not the referendum. A petition is only ever, in law in England, codified into English law, the process of the petition is only ever required to ever show, when it comes to percentage-wise, 5%. Because then the citizen has done his part to show that it requires a bigger, a proper. Well, it can go to a full-on vote, right? The petition is not a full-on vote. It doesn't matter if it's on the government website or not. The petition is different to the consultation or the referendum. And the thing with a petition is you don't need any signatures if you've got a strong, compelling case, like in court. The petition is meant to be like a court case, and you only ever need signatures of other people if you want to get the whole law of the country changed, to show that lots of people might support that change in law. If it's a different type of petition which doesn't want a change in law but wants to get something looked at, or another form of complaint that only requires like proof to show that it should be done or must be done, then that doesn't even need any other signatures really. So on the results of this Lewisham, the people, the entire country of Wales has gone out of its way and actually pulled in more results than an actual official government election poll, right? And that is significant. And the thing about this jury model is that when you have a jury, there are two different models that they go on for getting a verdict, right? If you put all of the full electorate who are entitled to vote, right, and then percentage-wise work it out and say that if they were a jury, right, and then sort of like percentage them into the 12 jurors percentage-wise, right, the current governments are starting to get these kind of figures in, and these kind of figures don't compel 2/3 of a jury. They do not compel 2/3 of a jury in the voting. So therefore, it would, if the case was to, give the government powers, the government currently cannot hold down 2/3 of the public, and it cannot even hold down 1/3 of the public confidence. Now that is something that Rishi Sunak should be concerned about. If Rishi Sunak isn't concerned about that, I don't know what he is concerned about, other than the Lords and Charles and his Privy Council with their peculiar oath, running the world by money that they've extorted from human beings, and lobbying of huge corporations who command the technology and power of the world, the army, the secret services, and they are running the world without the consent of the population. That surely is a militia model. It's not a democratic model. If anyone in the CIA or FBI or MI5 thinks that they are in an armed force serving their country, they are taking the piss out of us. They are delusional. They are liars. They are serving a militia conquering force that exerts its will over the public through money which it has extorted out of us and products that it sells. And this is the current opinion of the public, at least in the Lewisham election, and this is the way that it's going. It's rammed to about 50% now, and it's starting to get towards this. This is where modern technology gets these political parties. The modern technology is not getting the political parties more vote. It's definitely getting the political parties less popularity and less votes. Now, if we don't go by the judge is supposed to go by the standard jury method, which is that the whole jury are meant to be agreeable. If one person doesn't agree, then that's it, right? But then the judge can apparently implement this other method or take it to another method where it takes 2/3. But it doesn't matter whether it's 1/3 or 2/3. They wouldn't win on 1/3, let alone 2/3. So on this model of the one juror, right? If the entire population, for example, of this Lewisham, right, were a jury, right, you would not get even 3 of them. One of the jurors here is like just around half or slightly under half. In order to compel that juror, you don't just need to have like, you know, a little bit, like as you start to as that one juror starts to getting take on opinion, you start to compel them. But one of the jurors, there's not enough to compel one of the jurors, right? So I mean, he's only half and half. So you haven't even really compelled that juror with opinion. So in my opinion, you don't get that third juror, because they would have to have they would have to be convinced, and on this, they're not convinced, right? So, and out of the other, it's like the Englishman, Irishman, and Scotsman, this model. Of the other 2 jurors, right, one of the jurors is only fully convinced that the government has got their confidence, right? And then the second juror he's got some opinion of the first, but then the rest of him, and it's not even half of his opinion, and the rest of him is split opinion. Now, this model does show that really there is, out of all the people who actually care for politics and who vote, there is quite a bit of a significant amount of concern for the environment in there, right? But I think that really, this is a good model to show, like when they say that Labour and the Tories really are, they claim they're opposition and opposed to each other, but really they share quite a lot of, there's quite a lot of the running of the country that they share, right? Quite a lot of things that they both have got pursuit of. And therefore, I think that is evident in this model, in the pink, right? You know, they're both taking on the same colour. But then one of them is opposed in some matters, and that is really a very good model of the Labour and Tory party. The model of the Labour and the Tory party is that, you know, they all seem to be going along with these World Economic Forum, Department of Innovation Technology, highways, you know, economy, all these big things. They seem to be playing the same tune. But, you know, they just claim to have a little bit of indifference over, you know, rich and poor. Starmer and the Tories seem to be, well, Labour was meant to be standing for the working class people. But, you know, it's almost like royal red. It's almost like, you know, the Privy Council is the pink colour. And, you know, but what I find is that out of all these other persons who are greyed out, who aren't voting or don't support this government, that's for sure. They definitely don't support this government, or else they go vote for him, right? It's almost like there's only really 2 people who are even concerned at all. And I think that you get people who are bothered about what's going on, but very, very, very strongly opposed to what the government are doing. And who've got a very strong opinion in opposition, but all those persons seem to be, they all seem to have their own separate kind of opinions. I think really that is demonstrated by all the rest of the colours that are split up. I do think that really there's a lot of people opposed to this one body, this one kind of. It almost looks like, you know, it's almost like the king, isn't it? I would have thought if this were a model of society and you do this percentage wise, it's almost like that pink character. The pink character on the left could be Charles, you know, and then that could be Keir Starmer stood next to him, who took on the tint in the oath, although he claims to be for Labour opposed to the rich and the Tories. But yeah, he's almost taken on his colour. Oh, there's a bit of environmental concern in there as well. And the third person isn't even fully, half of that. He really is like the Englishman, Irishman, and Scottishman joke embodied this for sure. I think with all the multiple colours divided up there in the rest of it, to be honest, when you had it, they've only got 50% of the actual turnout of the 20.7% turnout. The Labour Alliance has only got 50%. So all the other 50% is all the other entities combined together. Maybe if they weren't split up and maybe if they were combined together, then that would be something to take on this other entity group. But, you know, it looks pretty much like, to me, I mean, you know, this looks pretty much like it's almost like, this person on the left-hand side seems to think they're in charge. And there's one other person who is opposed to them or split over a number of matters, but not enough combined together to challenge the other person, or even they've taken on some of the other person. But the third person definitely is not even compelled enough to fully support them. So, I mean, it really is looking like an Irishman, Scottishman, and Welshman joke. I think these results are extremely significant, very, very, very significant, and I don't think the government are taking it that seriously. They're running the country on this kind of. It really is kind of like a minority now. It's an authoritarian minority. It very much is an authoritarian minority that seems to be running the world. Actually running the world. And no one else seems to be. The problem is that other people aren't coming together properly to oppose, because they're all separated. It's almost really like, you got your Stop ULEZ, your Wales 20 mile an hour, you've got your Brussels brand, your Big Brother watch, you've got all these other split minorities that if they were united together, then that might be a fair opposition, but they definitely aren't the same colour as the character on the left, although they're taking on with the tint. It's a shame that the rest of the public are not actually in some kind of, united opinion.